Uh, right, we're on. Welcome back to the Sound Important podcast. Today we're joined with Andy McKenzie, and I'm really looking forward to having him on. And we were swapping some funny stories, and I thought, I know you've got some experience working in rugby back in the day, I think it was, and I remember my first senior. I started playing senior rugby when I was 17.
Yeah,
and I got called in, and this was when like rugby was really community focused as well, and it was local club. You're good enough, fast enough, get out on the wing, and then we'll take you on a bus trip. First away game, bus trip. Come back into the clubhouse, and I think I'm like Billy Big Bollocks, and they're like, right, you've got to face the judge, and I'm like, that's the captain. You got to face the judge. And I'm like, what? It's like, there's a game. It's called Spoons, right? And we sat down opposite each other, and we'd start doing the spoons. And he goes, hang on a minute, lads. This guy's tough as nails. I'm going to have to take my teeth out. And he took his 3 front teeth out, and they're not knowing behind. They pull out the fucking dinner tray and absolutely poleaxe me over the back of the head with a dinner tray on a game of spoons. So yeah, just reminded me of that. But how
that's in case like to really give context, I've got Invisalign in at the minute, so my speech is so if I drop halfway down, I'm taking my Invisalign out to speak properly, mate. It's been past 2 weeks has been chaos. But then the interesting thing is actually, as I feel I'm getting older, like dental health, the little things you actually don't really, they're so far removed from when you're younger, but that starts to bite you in the bum. So kids, brush your teeth and make sure you floss.
Yeah, I got a couple of rogue agents on the front not from rugby or not from fighting, but from BMXing.
Mine is I smashed the 2, I don't know what they call it, the 2 outside ones.
Yeah.
And what's actually happened over time is it's changed my bite.
Oh, and
wow. My jaws shifted, and I started getting a lot of TMJ issues going into neck. It was a crazy sort of like circular sort of like that pattern as such.
Yeah.
Went to see the dentist for a couple of other things, and she was like, look, we can do this. And then I was a bit like, sounds a bit odd. But then she showed me the 36-week period of how much your teeth can actually change, even as like an adult with these Invisalign. I was a bit like, wow. And even the structure of my jaw and how it would like go back to where it should be, because my the molars at the back have like turned inwards. And so now I'm going through that process, which is quite interesting. And I think 2 weeks in, I've already noticed my jaws soften, because normally they're really tight, and they're starting to relax a little bit as well, which is actually pretty cool. And that's one thing I said to dentists. I'm not going to, at the end of the day, I'm not pretty by any stretch, and I don't really want perfectly straight teeth. But what I do actually want is a really good bite and better dental health as I get older, because it's costly as well. But I thought I'll do it now while I'm in the.
Are you sleeping better?
My sleep's terrible at the minute. So okay. I mean, I track with Oura Ring, and I tell you, well, here's a correlation as such. I stopped drinking coffee because I'm really sort of because I do quite a lot of travel abroad and things like that now, so I'm really hot on sleep, especially after having kids. And my deep sleep was terrible, and I'm talking like say less than an hour, sometimes 45 minutes.
Oh wow.
Which isn't good when you actually think about it. And all right, you can track it with Oura. How accurate is that? If it's used continuously, then it's going to be accurate to what I'm actually doing. So a couple of changes that I made were increasing carbohydrate later in the day. And then the other one was cutting out caffeine. And the thing with the caffeine as well, right, is I wasn't a huge caffeine drinker. I normally have 2 flat whites, run about 11 o'clock, and that was it. So some people think, I need 5 or 6 to keep on going. But I've always been one where I've never done a lot of pre-workout because I don't need it, because I'm genuinely always on. I'm quite hyped up sort of like most of the time. It takes me a long time to sort of like calm. And I noticed that. So within sort of like 4 to 6 weeks, my deep sleep gradually started creeping up all the way up to 1 hour 35, 1 hour 40.
Nice.
Incidentally, now I put these back in, and I've dropped all the way back down from the deep sleep, and I can feel it. No, the only way I can say it is I feel tired inside. You know, sometimes when you go and you grab a dumbbell and you squeeze it and you think, man, my grip's not fully there. Or hanging off a chin-up bar and stuff. And I think, man, I'm not fully on that. Everything else is dialed in, but I looked at the sleep. Deep sleep's gone back down. But they said that would happen anyway first couple of weeks. But it just shows you the importance of everything else dialed in. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't drink alcohol anymore. I stopped drinking when I had sort of like had the kids. Like, minimize the coffee. Diet's good. Like, training's well. I do all the other things. So if you think about it, like on Instagram, it'd be like, oh wow, you live a deep sleep, poor sleep, and just feel like, man, I'm tired inside.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things, mate. There's quite a thing.
You remind me of the book. You know the book, The Edge Effect. Remember the book, The Edge Effect? Well, it's basically, I've got it here. Yeah, it's all like metabolic typing. So like dopamine driven individuals, acetylcholine driven individuals, and like the fact that like I'm very up and down. Like I'm dyslexic and stuff, but I've definitely got undiagnosed ADHD. Like, I didn't crawl. Like, I'm up and then up.
Yeah. So
like, it's really interesting when you think of like the biochemical processes that your body respond to. Is really interesting. And like, I'm not that playing rugby. I was quite a big drinker then. I'm not much of a big drinker now. A couple of beers, a few glasses of wine on the weekend. But if I'm on holiday and I want to sit and read a book, I was telling my in-laws the other night, I need a couple of pints just to calm my brain down, because I'm just so there. It's like, give me a couple of pints, and then you'll lose me in a good Jack Reacher book, just to slow me down, which is crazy in itself. The way like chemical reactions can happen in the body. So it's interesting you didn't do pre-workout. I've never been that.
Give me a couple of pints, mate, and I'll be running naked down the street like Frank the Tank. Let's go! How did that happen?
So yeah, like the old changing room lock-ins and stuff. There's certain things, and I think the sport like does that for you. There's certain cultures that just can't exist in the outside space, and human pyramids and doing line out lifting in clubhouses, and that was like the early, even like the 2003 England World Cup team, like all up to that, there was still so much of that culturally in the sport. And just for me to sort of like get to know you better as well, like obviously there's a Scottish accent in there, and
lost.
So did you play sport growing up, and when did you move? I know you're down here now. So what happened in those periods?
What, from me moving from Scotland to thing?
Yeah. Did you play sport up in Scotland? Where did you live in Scotland?
In Scotland, I grew up in a town called Barhead, and in terms of like sport, rugby was never a thing. It was always football in Scotland, and I played football at a young age. When I got to secondary school, didn't really play it that much, and that was purely from, I'd say, poor parents couldn't drive me around to play games and different things like that. So the sport that I did a lot of martial arts and a lot of boxing, and that's what my brothers did. So I was always training, always running, and doing things like that. So I was always active. From that perspective, I joined the military when I was 16. I joined Junior Leader Regiment, and the beautiful thing about that was it exposed me back into a lot of other sports again. So we got to play, like rugby, football, a lot of track. The issue with that is I was always a good runner, always extremely fit, and they were a bit like, "Oh, we just want you to go and do this thing. We want you to represent us running the Manx Marathon and silly things like that." So that was my 16 to 17, and then from there, I always wanted to do the parachute sort of like side and do the airborne side. So I joined a regiment called 7th Parachute Regiment, Royal Horse Artillery. And I'll try and go through this sort of like quickly if we can dive back in. But I did P Company when I was 17, which is like one of the most arduous physical courses in the British Army, which is always up for debate, but you can get lost in that. Fantastic experience. And one thing that it gave me that sticks with me to this day is when you pass the course, it's the minimum standard. And I always remember reading that as like, what you do now, this is a standard to uphold. And it's one of the reasons why I started to have a rift when I went to the regiment, because I started looking at people going, you're actually lazy. You're overweight now. You're not really upholding this. And I started to have a sort of a disconnect. So that was like a real deep-seated moment for me, thinking, right, this is a standard. I've got to be on it pretty much all the time. So qualified 17, 18, parachute course, and then did all my operations. And within my military career, didn't play a lot of sport because I essentially didn't have any time, because I was either on exercise, on ops, or you were in camp. And again, I was more of a runner. I like running. I like doing sort of like bodyweight stuff, training. So I just sort of stuck to that. So when we had sports afternoons, I went for a run, a cross-country team, different things like that. So that was my exposure. In terms of moving into the rugby side, that was not until I qualified as a Royal Army physical training instructor. So I went through lots of different courses to get to like a certain level, and we can discuss that, because it's actually a really good way. Because when I look at my journey as a coach, it's very, very different to what younger guys and girls might be having now, because I was getting paid to actually just be fucking awesome at what I do and just immerse in it. And the thing is with me is like, once I'm on something, I'm in, and I'm literally all in. I go deep and I go wide at the same time. And that's just the way I am. So I had an opportunity to actually do that. So when I did my class 3s, which was like 8 weeks, I was studying 8 weeks prior, every night, reading about anatomy, because that's, again, just the way I am from a mental and preparation perspective. Then the 8 weeks, and then you go back to the regiment, and then you deliver physical training. But one thing, and again, this is stems from childhood, and then it's been through my career and then with sport. If I always like to do something different, and again, so I grew up with a pretty poor childhood, and everybody says, oh, that's just the way it is. I'm thinking, well, if that's the way it is, then why can't we do something different? So like, I remember going to, I'll jump back, I remember going to high school, and he said, oh, you're going to be in these classes here. And I was thinking, well, I don't really want to be in these classes, because that's where all these kids from the bottom housing scheme are in. I want to do physics. I want to do English. I want to do modern studies. I want to do computer studies. I take this test and you go on that way. So, and jumping back to my journey as a coach, I did like class 3s and then stayed in the regiment, did PT, and I just loved it. Like just being physical and coaching and passing on that knowledge. As much as you do that in the military as well, when you work in small teams, you're bringing up other guys and teaching them certain things about the job. I felt more connected with the physical side of it. I'm really thinking back to the actual sequential journey, but then I had a long period between going on ops and then thinking, I don't really want to be here, then going on my class 2. So class 2 is like, class 3s is essentially you working with a normal unit. Class 2s back then, I don't know what it's like now, was you then being able to work with recruits, because you have to deliver a different style of training, because you're training civilians that are getting into the military. I remember doing that, and then another period away, and again getting really frustrated, thinking, I've got all this knowledge. And at that time, I was competing in triathlon, like at a really good level. I was doing duathlon as well, ready to compete for GB, but always marred with going on exercise, going on ops, and just being really, really frustrated. So I had like a really 3-year period where it was almost stagnant, in the respect that I was doing pre-parachute selection staff, which was an amazing job. I mean, when I look back at training volume, when people say to me now, oh, I feel overtrained, I'm like, no, you can do more. Like you're mentally up here. You're putting yourself under unnecessary pressure. You can do more physically, especially if you're 25 to 35, you've got superhuman. There's a different energy. Trust me, there is a different energy, and take advantage of it, like, genuinely. And I would say, like, throw yourself into all of it and do all of it. And then what happens then is you'll gradually really understand when to say no. But until then, just throw in. But essentially from there, Sam, I remember having this one sort of like pivotal period where I stood in a trench in Otterburn thinking, right, I'm done. I remember saying to the boss, listen, I feel like walking out of this trench at a minute, because, like, I don't know how many times I've actually asked, I want to go and do this course because that's where I want my career to go with. That's where I want my career to go. I've just had enough. And then after that, it was a bit like, okay, we need to push him on this Army physical training course, which I eventually got on. That was 9 months of training, and then went into specialised in rehabilitation, which was another 6 months. So really, I mean, when you talk about intense period, at that point we were doing the degree up in sort of like Manchester at the same time I was doing the course, and then I knew I was going to go RI, which is the exercise rehab, and I was thinking, shit, I'm under pressure here because I always felt like undereducated. So I was like, right, hyper mode again, still learning anatomy, just so that when I got there, I would be like slightly ahead of the curve. And then got in the RI course, and it pushed on from there.
Yeah, love it. I think there's so much there about not necessarily, I want to say compensation for preparation, but just being prepared is to not have to overcompensate, and it's understanding how, as well, having an acute level of self-awareness is so important. I just like I love it every time you put something online that's quite introspective. I can tell you're a deep thinker. You're well thought out individual. And from a coaching perspective, that's so important. But that only comes from experience. Personally, I went through some really tough times losing my brother about 10 years ago, and it put me on this whole journey of development. And without suffering, you don't find that, do you? You don't learn to get into those deep pockets and go through some really tough stuff. And like the training that you've gone through, as you said, like talking about training, that I'm tired. You're not tired. You're not tired yet.
And
so
do you know the thing with that, Sam, right? That's not being egotistical. That's just genuine lived experience. And
yes,
I'll tell you one thing there. When you talk about like dark moments or like preparation, and again, this is the bit that I wrestle with, is when I look back, social media, the internet wasn't really in fact, the internet wasn't a thing when I was going for the PTI course and things like that. So to truly immerse, I didn't have any distractions. Yep. So what I find now, so my awareness now is we've got this thing here, which is a problem unless you're, it's a problem, because when people say they're disciplined, and you can look at their screen time and things like that, but that's a huge distraction. And I have to really pull myself back and center myself if I really truly want to get something done. And for me, that takes like questions, what do I want to achieve? And that stops me in that very moment, because otherwise, if you don't ask a question, it's so easy to go into a well-worn groove of just pick up the phone and then get lost in something that is designed to keep you there. And the more you're aware of how you behave, especially around that. And this is why I go back to, I stopped drinking alcohol, like 2 kids, but I knew it was actually affecting me. So when I did a deep dive and I looked back and I thought, right, what are the pivotal moments where I could have progressed but didn't? And what was the one thing that was actually holding me back? Drinking too much. Like the army's a huge drinking culture. It's how you deal with stuff. Just going for it. It's rugby as well. After a game, after a bad game, which is the worst one, isn't it? Like, let's get, and next minute, you're like crawling on the back seats naked with like people with lighters and stuff like that, and you're thinking, how the fuck did I get here? Do you know what I mean? But that's like, when I look back at that as well, is like, I don't really agree with that culture either. When people say, I know we're going way off in different tangents here, but when I actually reflect back, and I think, would I like my son to go through that? I would say no, because I don't think I don't think it builds the true character of what a man really should be.
Yep.
And people will argue with that because they're stuck in their own stuff, and they actually don't want to move themselves. But when I look back at, say, for example, the military, if I could transport myself back, what would I do differently? Wouldn't go out on the piss as much, which would be horrendously difficult. Even in rugby as well, I'd say no, and I'd say, hey, no, I'm the strength coach. No, done.
Yeah.
I'd have been more, and I guess this is the beauty of age. But what I'd actually like to pass on to younger coaches: just be really strong in self and be true to yourself. Because when you've got the ability to say, no, I'm absolutely fine, and not be coerced into something, you'll garner respect anyway. Because you don't want the respect of, oh, yeah, he's one of the guys. You want the respect of, hey, man, when he does something, he does something. When he says no, he means no. And when he says yes, you know it's on. And that's, I think that's a healthy. So if you look at that from a healthy masculinity, that's what you actually want. That's the character, especially from a coaching perspective, that you want. And that's what I say to that one.
Yeah, I love that. Say what you mean what you say. And, for me, it's always like, if you say you're going to do something, you do it. There's like, sit on a fence, you get splinters. Like, it's huge. And I'd said to you about coming on, and you're like, oh, I'm not sure, because I've got lots of coaches in my audience. That's exactly what they need to hear, because it transports me right back when I got, I resigned when I was at WASP. I resigned in 2015. It was a fucking shit show. Yeah. October 2015. And real toxic environment. And then I worked at Ealing for another couple of years, the summer afterwards. And then I got the boot. When you challenge the powers that be over player welfare, I still got the text. Do you want to come in for a catch up tomorrow on the day off? I was like, oh fuck, here we go. And then that was the point where it's like, no, I'm not doing this anymore. This is not for me. I am doing it my own way, full Sinatra, and just sticking to that. I want to coach high performance. I want to coach in performance, and I just want to keep coaching and where coaching takes me. Love speed. It's in my body. And then there's the mission is like, how do we build team sport athletes like there are MMA fighters now? Because you've got people that are just good at S&C that play sport. And I think that there's such, what you said there, if I was 22, 23 and I heard that, I'd be like, fuck, I'm on the wrong path. I need to push myself rather than being in the echo chamber that I'm in of, oh, have you got your UKSCA? Are you going to this conference? Do you, are you in the fucking Billy Big Bollocks club with, getting on stage? And that's what you had at rugby as well, real clique culture. And I never was that.
Do you know that thing there is simply, sorry if I cut you off there.
No.
Again, for me, that comes back to distraction, because if I then talk, I've actually missed about when I got into rugby and sport and stuff like that, and my in, and I guess out. When I finished my rehab course, I went to Purbright, and I was at Purbright initially as a corporal, and then taking recruits. And for me, I always had this idea of training people, not destroying them. And even when I was in pre-parachute staff, I remember it was always like, this is the way we do it. And I'm thinking, all right, but the question I have is, are we trying to get more people through, or are we just trying to destroy people? Because there's a very different pathway. You can still get really good people without actually killing them to a certain degree. And I had that same mindset in basic training when I went there. And it was almost like this, again, ego. Oh, this is what I did when I was a PTO. I'm going to smash them. And I'm thinking, well, it's very easy to smash these guys. They're unfit. They can run a 15-minute mile and a half. If you take them for a walk, they're going to be tired. So actually develop them. Do you know what I mean? They're getting like 20 push-ups. They don't need a session which is push-ups, triceps, dips. It's fucking moronic. Train them. And I really had this tension in the respect that I wanted to almost change the system and say, rather than have, if we know they're good enough to be a soldier, as in they've got the qualities, let's just remove the physical testing element and then expand it. So actually coach them to say, hey, when you get into the gym, when you're in your unit, this is how you keep fit. Here's a solid push-up. And you gradually or progressively program them all the way through. No, that's not the way we do it. And it was like, okay. So went back as working in the rehab. Then I actually got an opportunity to work with the kids there, because they were at the time, over a 12-week period, because a lot of them had like pelvic stress fractures, which was like inferior, superior pubic rami. So I had an opportunity then to actually build them up, like just walking around a track, walk and jog, really good calisthenics, like body weight training, get them connected with core, like work out there if they've got a mobile ankle that's actually affecting their running, especially when they get uphill. Let's get that sorted out. So let's standing back 12 weeks, really lowering everything down, but just making sure they were well trained. They go back into the unit, flying machines, and then I'll be like, hey, why can't we just take what we're doing in the rehab world and just slowing everything down, not putting pressure on, and stick that back in there? No, it can't be done. It won't be done. I don't know what's happening now. That's that's why I had this like back and forth with the powers that be. I then started playing rugby, sevens rugby, because I'm not the biggest guy, and really enjoyed it. First time I'd actually played sevens, and I got into the coaching side. I was thinking I actually quite like the physicality, the strength, and then getting the aerobic and then try to develop the speed. I like the challenge of that. Yeah. So got into rugby, chatting with a couple of guys who work with Celtic Crusaders, we're a rugby league team down in Wales. Yeah. Got an opportunity to work down with them. We're down there for a weekend. They were sort of a couple of guys they were quite happy with. Never heard anything back. And then he said, look, we're going to go into Super League. We want a guy who can actually do rehab. Would you be interested in the role? I was like, hey, cool. I'm out. I'm done. Yeah. I moved down there. But I also want to back up, because I think this is quite important. At that time, and again, this goes into, if there's younger coaches here, I was everywhere. And what I mean by everywhere is I was working with a club called Guildford Rugby. So I was there Tuesday night, Thursday night, obviously game on Saturday. But Monday I had a boot camp, and you're going back to sort of like early 2000s, maybe a little bit more. I was running a boot camp. I was doing PT on a Wednesday night. I mean, I was busy. So, but I was so immersed in it. So I wasn't burnt out. I was still not working during the day and still doing quite a lot of training. So you can do it. Just don't worry about what other people are saying. Just go into it if you go into it with love and passion. And a lot of people throw these words around. But for me, strength coaches tend to be very passionate. There's a huge but there. That's when the powers that be will take the piss. That's when they'll offer you, come and work for like 25 grand or 30 grand or whatever it is now. But make sure you've got a master's degree in UKSCA, and you have to go through all this process and spend an inordinate amount of money, but then for a really poorly paid job. But because you're passionate, you really enjoy it. And it's like, no, you can be passionate, but don't let people take the piss out of you. And this is when you come back to like your true self.
Cristiano Ronaldo's passionate about football.
Yeah. And very well paid.
Yeah.
But it's just one of the, and I guess like that's where they get you. But just to sort of try and compress it all together, because I appreciate the time. But I went through the UKSCA process when it first sort of like started. And again, I remember I worked with a guy called Jeremy Moody, and I always remember saying to him, I don't want to learn how to pass. I just want to be a really good strength coach. So when I stand in front of my peers, I can have a good conversation and I can feel confident. And then from there, I work with like Neil Taylor, who's a Commonwealth weightlifter.
Yeah, I know Neil Taylor.
Yeah, brilliant guy. I used to go to his, and again, if you think about, people talk about optimum training. I used to be Olympic weightlifting in his garage in Newport at like 11 o'clock at night sometimes. Do you know what I mean? Optimum, but like fucking great sessions. That just gave me another side to Olympic weightlifting. So when I went through the assessment process, and I remember like taking my training program, and I can't remember his name. I think it was Duncan French. my training program was fucking awful because it was real. Because it was like some of the reserve squad in Celtic Crusaders who were still at uni, still living on beans, going on the piss, getting injured, and then she had a beautiful program, but stop, rehab this, and I was like, hey, that's if you want real, that's it there. And he was like, it's nice to actually see a real training program rather than this beautiful meso macro. Like one of those spreadsheets back in the day that were like color coded in like ADHD, OCD nightmare. But yeah, mine was real, and I did the assessment process and actually really enjoyed it. I thought it was a good day out coaching. Like I get to Olympic weightlift, I get to do snatches, cleans, chat to people about what I love. I get to do some plyo exercises and regress it. But I was fortunate enough that progression was just a daily thing for me when I was doing rehab. It was always normal to look at something and go, not quite getting that. We just have to pull it back to until he gets this part here and then pump in again. But so yeah, I went through all that, and I didn't continue with rugby because the team were moving from South Wales to North Wales, and I just built like another business on the side. And I thought, right, hold on a minute, let's really think about this. And I then looked at 3 or 4 other strength coaches at a time, and I looked at their resume, and I thought, he's been this part of the country, that part. And I thought, right, do I want to do this to my wife at the time? Do I want to continually sort of like be beholden to like this wage level or that sort of stuff? And I just went, do you know what? I'm gonna stop here. And that's one facet of it. There's another part that I just felt that it was almost like paint by numbers. I'm gonna write this program. It was almost like too easy. Oh, we want this test, and I'm like, they don't need testing. They just need more training. And I had this like internal battles with the coaching staff as well. But then I started to train other people around, and I was more excited about challenging myself in different arenas. Like, how can I bring this strength component into this guy's training program? How can I bring speed into this, but not affect his aerobic work? So I was getting more into the nuances rather than just going Monday upper body, Tuesday legs, and then going the runs. And I just thought, can I be doing this for the next 20 years? No, I don't really want to. And that's when I moved away and started on the path that I'm on now, in terms of I'm on my 3rd gym, which is like privately run. I've got an online group. I'm still coaching around the world and things like that. So, I mean, I probably missed out so much as well, mate. So.
No, it's just brilliant. I think like what always gets me as well, especially in sport, they try to emulate the toughness of military, and I think it's just such a misplaced pursuit. Like when they do pre-season, we got to do this, and we got to do this is what the SAS training is like. So we're going to do that for mental toughness. And when I was at the academy at Wasps, I got to go up to the first team for 2 weeks when someone was on holiday, and they ended up being a staff shape around. I ended up in the first team, but they had a block that was called TTFU in the training schedule. It was toughen the fuck up. So it was just basically like hard work. And I just sort of, from playing, having that, we talked about it offline, physical empathy. Like, I actually don't need to be tough to be good at sport. I need to be good at sport to be, and yes, you have to, as they say, go to the well, which basically means you have to be able to operate at high heart rates and think clearly. But, from your experience inside, it sounds like there was kind of like an academy process where you take new recruits in and you have to build them to a certain physical competency. Then they kind of get first year soldier, second year soldier. Could you, talk about how, that influenced you moving forward as well? Because I think it's really, really important.
When I look at my mindset is always to really, my mantra in philosophy, I guess, from a training perspective, is move with a purpose to improve. And when I used to look at, when I moved from the rehab to rugby, And then if I go back to the rehab perspective, I remember looking at the guys' training programs and they said, "Oh, just follow this ankle one." I'm thinking, okay. But they weren't, they were just generic and lazy with no genuine sort of like thought out process. There's no like, why are they actually doing that? And I would like to, so if I'm writing a training program, when I choose an exercise and you say, why did you put that in there? There needs to be a genuine reason. Because if it's a filler, then sorry, you're entertaining people, you're not training.
Yep.
And when I looked at the programs that went into the rugby side, it was just bodybuilding-esque. Just again, too much volume, too much junk, like nothing sequential. There's no mobility and warm-ups that actually augmented or improved what you want, the quality that you wanted to achieve in the main part of the session. So therefore, why did you have that in the warm-up? And how did it affect the main session? So over time, I started to come up with a process called RAPS, which was warm-up, range of movement, activation, and then the P was split into patterns or play or just positions. And then the last one is skill. Because again, you always want to develop a skill when you're ready for it. But the beautiful thing about RAPS, right, is it's a framework. So you don't have to do all of it. And the part is, as a coach, for me, especially when you look at range of movement for me is you have to mobilize ankles, knees, hips, spine, shoulders, and neck when it comes to rugby. But you don't have to do the same exercise every time, but you want to do the same movement pattern. So guys think, oh, this is different, but you're still mobilizing the body. So a lot of frameworks. I started to build that because at one point I had 45 to 50 rehab patients. So therefore I need to have a system where I could go, right, how can I get this where I can give them progression every single time? I can also change it up. They think it's changing, but it's not on my side. I'm still improving the same quality. But you're almost like playing with people, giving them what they think they want, but you're giving them what they actually need. And then, so I started to do that with players as well. So it was really effective because when you're busy, you need a system where it still allows you the ability to think outside the box when it needs it, especially when you're on the field and a drill completely fucks up. You need to be able to center yourself and go, just make those two changes, and then you're into something else. And if you don't have a system or like a method, and this is where I'd say the coaches, right, if you're young, be very, very careful if you're always copying. You need to like really ask, get better at asking really good questions. So it's one thing, I know I'm going off and coming back in. I'm thinking about younger coaches. If you go in a seminar, if you go and even listen to a podcast, go there with the intention of what am I actually trying to get out of this podcast? Or what am I trying to get out of this mentorship group? What questions can I ask Sam? What problems can I bring to him so that I can get them answered, but not answered to solve it, but answered to understand what's actually going on so that I can then create my own way going forward. I can draw on the experience, I can draw on the answer that you gave me, but then I can fundamentally deal with it when I'm under pressure. Because this is where I think a lot of coaches will get caught out in person with the ChatGPT, because you can hide online, you can use whatever you want and sound fantastic. But when you're in person and somebody's asking you a question, it needs to be pretty much there. So in terms of, I'll just go back. So that was a system I actually developed, Sam. And that for me was because I seen like a lot of players who were broken or just about to break because they were doing too much and they were forced into, you need to do back squats because that's how you test it. It's like, you don't have to do them. You can actually do like rear foot elevated split squats, or you can actually do more plyos at that time, or you could just do explosive bodyweight training and give your joints like a different stimulus and your spine a rest with the load rather than going from game to back squats. It's like, okay. And so that's what I went through. So it's always with that idea of like, move with a purpose to improve. And that's because I always wanted to make sure guys were getting quality, especially for myself.
Yeah, I love it. Like the real underpinning of complementary training, it all has to speak the same language, and that comes from coaching. So you've done a lot of coaching. You've done a lot of you've gone through the reps. I remember my first client was my mum, like, and I had to train my mum, and I got on a government-funded personal training course when I broke my leg, and I had to do 7 weeks in the classroom full time to become a personal trainer, rather than the weekend things that you can do now. But I had to do my gym instructor first, so it's like half a year of full time to just know the basics, as it were. But I felt like, talk about asking questions. I'm a big man of I believe in bloodlines. So if you, when I first started to listen to people about training, I was doing BitTorrent, like downloading Russian manuals and all of that sort of stuff. And I sent my mum something at work, and Tom Mitanowski from he was at the Jags, I think, no, the Seahawks. He did a conjugate method ebook, and I got my mum to print it off at work. She was a teacher. It was 70 pages. And she was like, don't do that again. She just right-click print on the PDF. It's 70 pages. But like back in like YouTube, Zach Evernesh, he talked about Yeses. So I went and bought Yeses's book, Secret Soviet Sports Training.
Yeah, I've got that.
And it's like, it's still here now. And like, there's gems. And when you understand, here we go. And then, so you're, as you said, like, ask better questions, and when you keep using those systems and processes, when you're on the floor, when you're coaching, and like, you'll learn more from doing your boot camps, you'll learn to work with like high performers, you'll learn more about adaptability, syncing within frameworks. Like, I'm dyslexic and stuff, so my brain sees things in pictures. It sees, in my speed system, we've got 7 frameworks, and the 8th framework is them all working together.
Yeah.
And I see it. You can pull it and push it and move it around. It's got life to it, but it can work in anything else. And so that systems thinking is so powerful. And I love the common thread that, as you've told many of the stories, that you've always had a conflict with leadership, the conflict with management. And you're similar to myself. Everywhere you go, it just ends up not ending well because of your own, it sounds like my own thoughts and passion and opinions rock the boat with people. You say, I know, like, this is what's right by the people, as it were, but bureaucracy doesn't like that. Professional sport doesn't care about players. So I just wonder for you, like, how do you, from business now, how, there's a reason why we end up not working for someone else,
I'd never do that. Here's the thing, right? You could be very cynical and say, well, who's the common denominator? Who's the problem? Is it you, Sam, and me, Andy? It's, mine stemmed from seeing issues and then just wanting to change. So, and then hearing that alarm bells. I remember going back to Scotland. I was going to open up a gym. We don't do that. We don't operate like that. That wouldn't work here. And I was a bit like, fuck me, these people are so entrenched in their own ideas. Same as like rugby in Wales. This is rugby in Wales. We don't really want to do that. And it's like, okay, but what about changing something? Like, we genuinely want to progress.
Yeah.
But just to repeat something over and over again is madness.
Yeah.
So for me, after a while, you've really got to think, okay, just go there and do it on your own and set your own challenges and go that way.
It's almost as if in certain situations, when you talked about time at the military, or even when you said about school, I had a terrible experience at school. You're dyslexic and it's made to feel like it's your fault. Like you've done something wrong every day. And like but there's a predetermined expectation of how you should be when you walk into a role. They don't hire you for being you. They hire you to fulfill the role. And they're two very different things, and I don't know if you listen to, and from what you said about when you were a kid, they said you want to go into this class, but you're saying, I want to do this. Why can't I do this? There's a guy, an American guy called Ed Milet. He released a book called The Power of One More. He's a really big motivational speaker, and it's about the concept of being the one. So being the one in your family that makes the change, being the one that changes the way that your language is spoken in your house, being the one that just does it differently. And you can be in those situations. It's kind of like the filter that when they say you're the common denominator, you got fucking fired, it's your fault. Well, actually, am I just being the one? Am I pushing this? And that's what's getting pushed back on. And sort of when you have your business. Well, first of all, does any of that resonate with you? Am I?
Yeah, no, 100%. There's something that's actually going through my head, right? And it's like, it's almost being mindful of not to come across as bitter or to look at my past experiences and things like that, because they've built the pathway to where I am now. Yep. There's little things like you could turn around and say, well, you haven't worked at the highest level in professional sport. And it's like, okay, you're right, but I've worked in ways that actually fulfilled me, which was for me is infinitely more important, and who grew me and put me into really challenging positions. I mean, when I finished at Celtic Crusaders, I then worked at Special Forces Support Group as their strength conditioning coach, Rehab guy. At the same time, I then went to East Grinstead Rugby Club because they wanted to get promoted to national leagues. And I thought, do you know what? And they were hungry to change. And for me, that was a bit like, yes, I can actually be more effective because I'm not constrained by a system. I can actually impact these guys because they're willing to do something different. Same as the SF guys down there. I went in with the ability of, hey, look, we need to do this as a program. And I started really, even though it was rehab, I started to push them like fucking hard. So if they were like a lower upper body injury, their lower body was getting fragged because they still desired and needed challenge. And then did the same. And I also did that with rugby. But the beauty was, as going down to East Grinstead allowed me to apply that, but at the same time, be humble enough that you're meeting guys who want to change, but they've still got jobs and they've still got a really good design in the gym. And it was still like, I then had a real wrestle of identity, thinking, like, I really should be a professional. I need to be like head of this, head of that, head of that. But as soon as I actually really let go of that, I mean, truly let go, I was more relaxed and more in tune with my role. And I thought, hey, I'm here just to be a fucking awesome strength coach and deliver. And I can hand on heart say, if you ask any ex-players of mine, I'm still in contact with a lot of them, they'd be like, we always loved your sessions because you brought energy and enthusiasm. And I think if you're so stuck out there trying to like present and I want to talk at this, talk at that, you forget about what your actual role is, and your role is just to deliver your knowledge. And that was one thing that was actually key, is that power of actually to let go of expectations, because there is a big draw of you've got to have all of these things, but invariably you actually don't. You just want to gather as much experience as you actually can and then continually apply it as well, because you will get more from doing that than you will from just looking 2 or 3 steps ahead.
Yeah. It's funny you said East Grinstead then. Were you there when they played in that hanging lime green kit? They had the lime green kit. Yeah, because I would have...
the G-Force, because it was like the director of rugby time, Gavin's an awesome bloke. He had amazing plans for the club. And again, I got to the point where I just thought my time here is done. And I just knew I had to move on and move elsewhere. But they were...
I would have played against you. I would have played there.
Probably. Yeah, but they were... And the funny thing is like, here's the thing in terms of, from a coaching perspective, I'd finished with rugby, and then one of the guys, Adam Halsey, invited me down just to do a pre-season, and I went down there and I thought, these lads are up for it. There was just a real different energy, and it was like that, and it drew me in. I was like, you know what, fuck it. And I stayed there for about 3 or 4 seasons, And it
Yeah.
was just amazing. It was a really, really good time. And I grew and developed. And another thing, again, is I shut down from looking at what everybody else was doing, and I just started to focus on me. Because again, this is where you can have a great job, but you don't enjoy it because you're looking at, I'm not ahead of strength conditioning with this job. And it's like, yeah, but just you'll never get to that point unless you've built credibility where you are right now.
Yeah, and it was so funny. Like the obviously the director of rugby, they parted ways, and he took the doors, didn't he, with him?
Yeah,
Because he had
I
pumped
think
a load of money in, and he took the doors or something.
yeah,
It was so funny.
it got. I mean, yeah, it got very political, mate. But this goes back to this idea of like, as a coach, you're second or you're way down the pecking order, and that's what I realized. I just thought, right, if I stay here and this all goes tits up, I'm fucked.
Yeah.
And that's when I just thought, right, time for me to step back. And then I went to Toulon because they started a rugby league team. I went down there for 2 seasons.
Wow.
That was amazing. But again, when you're in, as soon as you can sit back, you can see the signs and just think, I'm expendable. You can be great. The players can love you. Essentially, you're still expendable because if a different management comes in or a different coach comes in, or if it just goes wrong, then you're left with it. And that's why I just thought, right, I need to make sure that I'm building a business in parallel. I'd always had that, even when I was back in Celtic Crusaders, because at that time I was like a PT, a strength coach, and working with the SF guys as well. So I'd say like, just make sure you've got things that can give you income on the side as well, mate.
Yeah, and I think for people, that was the best advice I had coming in, was that it was always make your own money. Always make your own money. And, you know, when I first got my first senior contract, and it was 18 grand a year, and I was working for Wasps, they're the best historic team in the world at that time. I was like, Jesus fuck. We've got to scale outside to even just afford the luxury of working for peanuts, you know. And so, like, just before we, coming to the end and wrapping up, I know you do some amazing stuff now, and I think what's really nice for people to hear is that high performance and operating that is all about your own mindset and how you do it. Because when you actually get the top job in S&C, it's not that. It's a fucking management job. You're not coaching. You're not developing. You're not ingrained with people. Sam Pepys, that was just on, he works with professional footballers in conjunction with their club, and so he's employed by the player. Very different relationship, which is very common now. And so for you, like, what are you doing on a day-to-day at the moment? So you do a bit of travel and stuff. I just want to give people listening an insight of the possibilities, so that you've had a very successful career.
Yeah, the first thing I'll say is I actually still genuinely love coaching. Like, I'm 50, I've been doing this a long time, so I haven't switched to the business coach, which a lot of people tend to do. It's like, oh no, it's like, no, I'm still genuinely a coach, and I love it. I still coach in person. And thankfully I'm in a position where I can be very, very selective. I coach a couple of clients abroad, so I travel to Mexico. They're really high value. I mean, really high up. When you talk about high performance, and I'll come up with that quickly as well. High performance for me is doing less, but doing it really, really well, exceptionally well. And that's a really difficult thing to come with. And it's one of the issues that I see with younger coaches, or a lot of online. It's almost they see high performers as doing every single thing, and it's like, it'll never happen. You will push people over the edge. Your job is to look at it and go, right, what can I take away and then maintain, but then turn that maintain into really solid progress. So I get that to do with guys who run multi-million-pound companies. So if you think about their pressure is different, their time to train is different, and therefore you've got to truly understand what's needed. And this is another one. So there's young coaches there, is always be looking to take away and not add. If you add into what you think is a problem, you're just going to create more issues. You should always look at something and go, right, training program. When you write it, take one thing away from it. Just one thing. I mean, literally, because what you'll then do is you will be ruthless with what is written in that plan. And the beauty is you can always take the one thing you've taken out and stick it into the next phase. Yeah. But the problem is you'll meet a human and it'll go tits up anyway. So you'll put it in there. So that's what I do. So I still work in person, and I've got a very successful online training group which I've had since 2017. It's called No Eat Links. Nice. So I manage that. Manage 2 kids. They're fucking hard enough as it is from a job perspective. So in person, a lot of travel, and then I'm also working on a fitness wearable. And I don't really want to say too much about it in a minute, but I've got a couple of investor meetings. But I'm trying to do something in the app and fitness wearable world that'll make things a lot more seamless.
Nice.
Yeah, so I'm busy, so I've just got to manage my time effectively, and not manage my time. I think when you get older, it's about managing energy, and once you can actually manage energy, because for me, I think I like to give everything when I'm with somebody. So I'm going to do a podcast, I want to be there. When I'm with my kids, I want to be there. Do you know what I mean? All of these things, and that time management is key, but it's like your energies the other thing. And what you'll start to find is you'll be very acutely aware of what drains you and what gives you. So another thing to really maybe pass on to younger coaches or any coach for me is like really understand what sharpens you, like what gets you in the zone. And then the other one is like what dulls you, because once you actually understand those, your level of questioning will really improve, because you'll be incisive and you'll go straight to it and you won't mess around. You'll tell the truth, which is another thing, is because if you tell the truth and you stand up for what is right, then your energy will still be there. Because if you shirk away from it, you're going to beat yourself up and you're going to be dragging yourself down. So they're really key things, because once you get those right, then your ability to learn comes back online, because you will literally remove distractions and you'll be straight on point. Your coaching will improve because you'll be ever more present. Your business will improve as a consequence, because you're doing things which is aligned. And that is very, very easy for me to say, because I'm at the other end. And the only thing that I like to say is stay in the horrible part and just avoid distractions. And what I mean by distractions is sometimes you don't have to read a book. Sometimes you don't have to listen to a podcast or go for a mentoring talk. Sometimes you have to sit in with it to the point where you go, that's the thing. That's the thing that I need to either do more of or completely remove. And and going back to me, that was alcohol for me was a big one. If I sat with that long, and then it was like, and it kept on coming back and back over and over again, to the point it's like, right, just remove that. And ever since I've done, things are continually changing on a different trajectory rather than being up and down all the time.
Yeah, that's awesome. Good stuff. If people listen to this and they wanted to just say hello, reach out to you, where would be the best place for them just to say thank you?
Yeah, mate. Best one is social media, mate, because I use social media for what it is, to be social. So if you message me on social media, you won't get a bot, you'll get me. So I am Mac Fitness. I'm mainly on Instagram. I try and avoid TikTok and dancing and all that. So yes, I'm on there. That's probably the best way to reach out.
Amazing. Good stuff. Well, thank you for today. All the reboot and the regeneration of this podcast is to literally have conversations like this, because there's a difference between being 20 in your career and being 28 in your career. And there's so many different lessons that need to be learned. So this type of conversation has been absolutely amazing. So thank you so much, mate.
Yeah, my pleasure, man.